All right, everyone, welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to continue the conversation on fundamentals, and in particular, we're going to explore the different kinds or types of vacancy allowance in commercial real estate. Let's get started. So on the agenda, we're going to cover first an overview of vacancy allowance, what it is, why do we even apply it, and then we're going to explore the four main kinds. So the first is market vacancy, then credit and collection loss, absorption and turnover vacancy, and finally bad debt allowance. Let's start off with the overview. So first, what is the vacancy allowance? And I think the easiest way to do this is really just to talk through an example, right? So let's say you have a unit in your building and you're leasing to this guy. So between the pointy skinny mustache and the pointy shoes and the scowl, like I don't know how much I would really trust this person or this character to really pay, right? So are they always going to pay? Are they always going to be there? Are they always going to pay on time? Are they always going to pay the amount that they need to or have contracted to? Probably not. And I think if you kind of expand this across all suites or all units or all properties, this is really what vacancy is for, right? Is it reasonable to assume that your suites are always going to be occupied, or that your tenants are always going to pay on the units, on the amount, and on time? Maybe not. And so if so, it may be reasonable or even required by your lender, let's say, for you to apply an allowance. Now, the vacancy could be either an expectation that you may not be 100% occupied, or it could also just be a measure that you actually aren't. So if you have 2 units and one of them is down, you have actual vacancy. So we can look at vacancy in a couple different ways, but I think there are 4, again, main descriptors for vacancy allowance. So what's most critical then becomes, where do we apply it, right? Like, how does vacancy allowance factor into our analysis? And generally, if we take a look at a snapshot pro forma, it'll get applied here. It is an adjustment to potential gross income. It is one of the first adjustments that we make after estimating that income or that revenue. So let's dive into market vacancy. What is market vacancy? So generally, it's this idea or concept of the reversion to the mean, right? That on average, if you hold the property long enough, it's going to have a similar occupancy to all of the properties that are similar to it in the market. So generally, similar properties will have a similar occupancy rate over time. So let's just kind of conceptualize this a little bit. So let's say you have that same shady tenant in building A, but what if over time he moves from building A to B to C all the way through the market? And what if between him and his friends, they occupy all buildings across all time? So on average, we could see how all buildings will have a similar occupancy rate or vacancy rate. And so if all these buildings are at 10%, given the tenant profile, building quality, market, and so on, if they're all at 10%, maybe it's reasonable to assume that you'll be at 10% too. That's what market vacancy is. It is that general level of vacancy consistent across similar properties in a market. Now, keep in mind, it is this expectation of vacancy. So your building may be effectively 100% occupied today, but it's the expectation that, let's say over 5, 10, 30 years, that on average, you will revert to that mean or typical vacancy for similar properties. So how do you estimate market vacancy? So one way to do it is to take a look at subscription services like a CoStar or a Reis that aggregate market data from third parties. Another is to rely on brokers or property managers in the marketplace like CBRE or Cushman or any of the other big name brokers or small name local brokers who have a real handle and pulse on the market and understand that average for similar properties. And the last is institutional survey level data. So even though this may be a little outdated, right? So quarterly reports, those are also a decent source to help you understand that range of what the market happens to be at a certain point in time. So again, let's take a look at where this plays into the pro forma. So if you have, let's say, $300,000 of gross revenue and the market vacancy is 10%. So we would assume that we wouldn't really collect the full 300. We would lose about $30,000 to just the comings and goings of tenants over time. So again, 10% times PGI. Now let's take a look at credit and collection loss. So first, again, let's define it. What is it? And so this is the idea that, your tenant may not pay. So what if they are on the verge of bankruptcy, right? They may not pay on time. They may not pay as contracted or as promised. Maybe they go out of business and they require some kind of collections, right? So let's imagine this exchange with your hypothetical tenant, right? So what if they text you and they say, I can't make rent? I understand. You'll probably be a little upset. So maybe they try to negotiate with you. They say they'll pay half. And the conversation continues, right? Where they say they'll try to make it up at some point in time, right? They want to pay, but they can't pay yet. So they have to defer. So credit and collection loss is this estimate of uncollected rents that may not happen based on tenancy. So let's say your property manager tells you that that's 1.5%, or maybe that's 2 months worth of partial payments on rents from this tenant. So then now let's talk about absorption turnover vacancy. What is that? So what is absorption turnover vacancy? This is the actual or expected time between tenants. So if you have a tenant that's set to vacate or their lease is about to expire and you think it'll take a couple months for you to find a new tenant, negotiate it, and have them occupy that space, that downtime between leases, that's absorption turnover vacancy. So let's imagine you have this apartment building and your tenant is set to expire in February. It'll take you 3 months to, again, identify a new tenant, qualify them, negotiate with them, sign the lease, and have them move in. Those 3 months worth of downtime is lost revenue that you can't collect. So you may have been assuming that you can collect 12 months worth of revenue on that unit, when in effect you can only collect 9. So let's assume 10 units and they each lease at $2,500 a month. For 12 months, that's $300,000. But what if you have one unit that's down for 3 months? That's $7,500 that you couldn't collect. That is absorption and turnover vacancy. That lost revenue associated with the tenant leaving and you having to find another one. So this calculation is really based on downtime, right? You can make estimates of how long you think it'll take and when you think your tenants will come in and go. But generally, this is an estimate that you'll make based on those conversations with property managers or tenants. Finally, we have bad debt. And so bad debt allowance is this estimate or actual amount that you've just simply written off. You've deemed that unpaid rent to be uncollectible. And so you're writing it off, right? This is just a way to describe that you've washed your hands in your ability to collect it and it's uncollectible. So let's come back to this example. Let's assume that one unit owes $5,000 and you've just given up. You've stopped trying to collect it. So let's come back to this text exchange. A couple months go by, they tell you $5,000 still owed. What are you going to do about it? And they fight it. So you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to pay it. They should have. You can sue them. It's probably not worth it. So you write off the $5,000 and you just move on. That's what bad debt is. So generally speaking, bad debt is this estimate or actual amount of your attempt and eventual, unfortunately, failure to collect an amount that was owed to you. So if we just take a big recap, vacancy allowance is this estimate of, generally speaking, you not collecting the revenue that you hoped you could. There are four main kinds: market, credit and collection loss, absorption, turnover, and bad debt. Each one of them refer to a different measure of vacancy, and each one of them really tell you a story in a particular way about really what's going on with your property or market at any given time. So as always, I hope you learned something. Thanks for taking the time. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I'll talk to you soon.